Hello, everyone. Today, we're diving into the crisis gripping China's property market. Over the past few years, the real estate sector, a cornerstone of China's economy, has hit serious turbulence. Let's break down why this is happening, its impacts, and what might come next. First, let's look at the background of why China's property market has become such a big issue. For the past 2 to 3 decades, real estate has been a key driver of China's economic growth. Starting in the late 1990s, housing privatization and rapid urbanization brought hundreds of millions of people into cities, fueling an explosive boom in property development. Real estate accounts for roughly 25–30% of China's GDP, a massive share. For many Chinese households, buying property was seen as the safest way to invest their savings, with families pouring a huge portion of their wealth into homes. But this overheated market started to breed problems. The trouble kicked off in the early 2020s with the Evergrande crisis. Evergrande, once one of Asia's largest property developers and China's second biggest, defaulted on over $300 billion in debt. That's about 400 trillion won, or roughly 230 billion in 2021. The company was building millions of apartments across the country, but many were left unfinished. This wasn't just one company's problem. Other major developers faced similar issues, and the entire property market began to wobble. In 2021, the Chinese government introduced the Three Red Lines policy to curb excessive borrowing by developers, but this tightened their cash flow and worsened the liquidity crisis. As a result, construction stalled and unsold homes started piling up. By 2023, the inventory of unsold homes in major cities was estimated to take an average of 20 months to clear at current sales rates. Let's dive into some numbers. According to China's National Bureau of Statistics, real estate investment dropped by 9.6% in 2023 compared to the previous year. Home prices in major cities fell by an average of 10–15%, with some regions seeing drops of over 20%. This price decline has hit household wealth hard. In cities like Shanghai, homeowners are feeling the pinch as their property values sink, leaving some with underwater mortgages where the loan exceeds the home's value. So why did this happen? First, excessive leverage. Property developers took on massive loans to fuel expansion, but as the market cooled, they couldn't generate enough cash to cover their debts. Second, tighter government regulations. To rein in the property bubble, the government capped borrowing and restricted speculative purchases, which was necessary long-term but caused a short-term shock to the market. Third, collapsing consumer confidence. As people expect prices to keep falling, they delay buying homes, further shrinking demand. Now, let's look at the ripple effects on China's economy and society. Economically, the impact is huge. Real estate drives related industries like construction, steel, and cement, which are now taking a hit. In 2023, the construction sector's growth slowed to around 2%, and jobs in these industries are shrinking. Local governments are also in trouble. Land sales to developers are a major source of revenue, but with sales plummeting, some regions are facing budget crunches. The social fallout is just as serious. In China, owning a home is not just about wealth, it's tied to marriage and family. Falling home prices and unfinished apartments are delaying marriages and childbirths among young people. China's fertility rate, already among the world's lowest at 1.1 children per woman, is worsening due to this crisis. Protests over unfinished apartments have also surged, with demonstrations reported across the country in 2022 and 2023, some even leading to clashes with police. What has the government done to address this? Since 2023, China has cut interest rates and relaxed home buying restrictions in some cities. For instance, Beijing and Shanghai have eased loan conditions and offered tax breaks for first-time buyers. But these measures have had limited success. Experts argue the interventions are either too late or not bold enough. Major developers like Evergrande remain on the brink of bankruptcy, and the debt problem is far from resolved. So, what's the outlook? In an optimistic scenario, Further government stimulus could stabilize the market, and consumer confidence might gradually return. But there's a darker possibility: deeper price drops, more developer failures, and a prolonged economic slump. The International Monetary Fund predicts China's GDP growth could slow to 4.5% in 2024, with the property crisis as a key factor. The global impact is worth noting, too. As the world's second-largest economy, China's troubles ripple outward. Reduced demand for steel and raw materials is hurting exporters. Like Australia and Brazil, Chinese consumers cutting back on luxury goods, and imports are affecting global brands. Amid U.S. China tensions, the property crisis highlights China's economic vulnerabilities, shaking international investor confidence. Finally, what can we learn from this? Real estate is a vital economic pillar, but over-reliance is risky. China's government is now trying to shift focus to industries like technology, manufacturing, and services, but this transition will take time and comes with short-term pain. The China property crisis is more than an economic issue. It's a complex web of social, cultural, and even geopolitical challenges. How it unfolds and how China navigates it will be critical to watch. That's all for today's video. If you have questions or topics you'd like me to cover next, drop them in the comments. See you next time.